All right, so I know a lot of you have this idea in your head that reading music is a waste of time. So you've already made up all kinds of reasons in your head as to why reading music is not worth your time. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why it's absolutely worth your time. So let's get into it. Number 1, learning to read sheet music gives you the ability to write down every idea that you get. And what's more important, not only are you no longer losing those ideas because you can't write them down, but it makes it far easier to work with those ideas once you've written them down. Because let's say you get a melody idea in your head for a vocal line, but you're a guitar player, so you don't have your singer to sit and sing it to you over and over and over. But what you can do is figure out what notes that melody is that you're humming in your head, write it down, and then you can say, okay, these are the notes in the melody, so maybe this chord progression will work for this. Okay, that doesn't work, let me move on to something else. And before you know it, you're writing an amazing chorus. Number 2, it gives you way better communication with your bandmates. Think back to how many times you've heard your bandmates go, yeah, but could you play it a little faster? Could you play that a little more hoppy, a little more bouncy? Could you play that dun 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 thing that I really liked? And could you do that thing that you just did 3 times ago when we tried it? But which is easier? That? Or, hey, let's go back to that 5 chord that we played. Can you play that through one more time and let's see if we can't do something with that chord to make it a little bit cleaner? Hey, this 4 chord is really tripping up my fingering, so maybe we can invert it and move it around a little bit so we can still keep the quality, but it can make it easier to play. Better communication. If you're all speaking the same language, it's much easier to communicate, right? Number 3, the ability to write songs faster. Why would reading music teach you how to write songs faster? Because when you're writing a piece, like I mentioned in the first reason, if you're working with a melody and you know what those notes are, immediately, because you know how to read music, you can already think of what notes will just plug and play into the right spot. And then you can go through those notes and figure out which ones you like best. Instead of just, all right, well, let me go fret by fret and see which note works. I mean, that can work for you if you've got hours and hours and hours. But if you're like me, I got a day job and a family to take care of, a dinner to cook, dishes to do. I have things to do. I don't have time to mess around. So I just want to know what will work, and then I can choose from a much smaller list of options when I'm trying to write something. So my songwriting goes much faster. Number 4, if you know how to read music, you can go back over all of those songs that you haven't released yet because of one reason or another, and you can work on those trouble spots. If you have a spot that just, the rest of the song is great, but every time you get to the bridge, everyone in your band goes, you can go to the bridge, you can write it out, and you can figure out, oh, that's why that's not working, because I put a chord there that doesn't fit. Everybody else is playing a 4 chord here, and I'm off here playing notes from a 7 chord. That doesn't make any sense. And that's probably why it doesn't sound so great. You can write it out, you can diagnose the problem, and you can fix it much, much faster, and you can get on about the rest of your writing, because you have a whole album to write. Number 5. Learning how to read music, knowing how to read music, is much more appealing on a resume for session work and guest spots than, yeah, can you just send me a recording weeks in advance so I have plenty of time to learn your song? And hopefully I'll be able to learn it as good as you guys know it. Instead, you can be like, yeah, send me the sheet music. I'll have this licked in a couple days. Learning how to read music teaches you the language that professional musicians already know. So if you can speak the language, you're going to be head and shoulders above the next guy who's applying for the same position, but doesn't know how to read music. So he requires tab and recording and all this other stuff. That doesn't mean that you're automatically better than that other musician, but it does give you a leg up if you can say, yeah, I can read music, send me the sheet music. Number 6, learning how to read sheet music gives you the ability to read wider varieties of music. Say, for instance, I am a rock and metal artist. I love writing rock and metal, but that doesn't mean I don't listen to pop. That doesn't mean that if I wanted something with a little bit of an outlaw country type sound, that I wouldn't be able to go pull up some sheet music from a country song and be like, okay, well, what kind of tendencies do they use? I know I did a video a while back about which tendencies work for which genres of music. If you can read music, then you can pull from any type of music, and you can use that inspiration to your advantage. You can diversify your sound, make yourself sound more versatile. If your album sounds a little bit like every song is kind of the same, you can do some things to mix it up. If you want to be a producer and you want to be able to take from all different genres, then or if you want to, make your own beats or something like that, and maybe you want to sample a metal song here, maybe you want to sample something from a classical piece, maybe you want to sample something from jazz. If you can read music, that whole process goes so much faster, because all you have to do is pull up some sheet music and you can read it like reading a book. All right, number 7. Reading sheet music gives you the ability to understand the capabilities of your own instrument, but also it gives you the ability to understand the capabilities of your bandmates' instruments. You may be trying to get your singer to sing an octave above where they're comfortable, and they might be able to do it sometimes, but you're not going to be able to write a whole album that way, because your singer is probably going to lose their voice because you're making them push so hard. Or if you're writing something, this is something I personally had to go through. When I started writing guitar lines for one of my old bands, I would put it out in sheet music, and then I would convert it to tab and go, there's no way my guitar player is going to be able to play this goofy chord that I created. So he and I talked about it, and we learned how to move chords around so that I understood better the capabilities that my bandmates could do, which just led to better communication and all around better songwriting. Think of reading sheet music as a way to kind of rein in the massive amount of ideas that you can have by understanding what restrictions you have. Obviously, your guitar player does not have, 7 fingers on one hand. So teaching them or trying to get them to do ridiculous chords is just unreasonable. But if you can find something that works within the restrictions of your, 4 available fingered guitar player, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. Number 8, learning how to read sheet music will give you the ability to learn any theoretical concept. Any concept from music theory, whether it's something in the beginning or whether you're looking at something that would be taught in the highest of college levels. Now, you're not going to have a teacher to walk next to you and help you all the time, but you have the ability to read the concepts and understand what they're talking about. I promise you, if you're looking at something in music theory and you're trying to understand a concept, you're going to need to read music theory to understand it. And even the most basic concepts, something like counterpoint, that I've talked about in a different video, you're going to need to know how to read sheet music to understand what it is that they're talking about. But if you know how to read sheet music, you can read all kinds of advanced stuff. And you may not get everything right away, but at least you're going to be able to understand what it's saying. Number 9, and this one is huge. If you learn to read music, it will amplify your precision and accuracy tenfold. Get ready for a giant performance upgrade, because if you're learning to play a new song and you can read it off of a page, it never changes. No notes get moved. You don't mistakenly play a wrong fret once or twice. The muscle memory doesn't switch on you. Everything stays the same. And how easy is it going to be to perform something if you've played it the exact same way every single time? When you go up on stage, all you got to worry about is doing the same thing you've done 100 times over. And at that point, you can just go out there and have fun because you've already done all the work. I've heard a lot about, oh, well, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes improvement. Personally, myself, I feel like if you're a musician, you shouldn't be practicing until you get it right. You should be practicing until you can't get it wrong, because then you go on stage, you perform it perfectly, and everybody goes nuts because they just saw an awesome musician put on an awesome show, and you've done the job. And last but not least, number 10, reading sheet music gives you the ability to do what I call educated listening. When you've listened to the songs that made you fall in love with music before, you fell in love with them for a reason. You may not have been able to communicate what that reason was, but if you learn how to read music, you can. And one of the things that I learned when I started reading sheet music and taking my music theory courses is it started to change the way I would listen to my favorite songs. My favorite songs were still my favorite songs, but I was hearing new things every time I listened to them. You know, sometimes you watch a movie you've watched 100 times, and then you're like, wait a minute, I didn't notice that before. That's what educated listening is. Before you know it, you're analyzing the chord progressions that made you fall in love. You're starting to figure out why it is that the music you loved became the music you loved. And that can just heighten your influence. That heightens your musicianship. It heightens your ability to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish as a musician, writing songs that people will love. Also, as an added bonus, if you can be an educated listener, it's going to open up a much wider variety of music that you'll enjoy. You'll be able to start appreciating music from genres that you wouldn't have even given a chance to. Maybe you never listened to jazz before, but as an educated listener, you can listen to it and really appreciate, okay, well, this isn't my chosen genre of music, but man, that was an incredible solo over that 2-5-1 chord progression. Being able to read sheet music gives you that educated listening ability, and I promise you, it will absolutely change the way you listen to music forever, and you'll thank me for it. So those are my top 10 reasons to learn how to read music. I feel like I've canceled out all the reasons you would be giving to not read music, but if there's some more that I haven't covered, by all means, hit me in the comments. I'll be happy to address them. Happy writing.